Today I'll be installing an aftermarket backup camera on my trailer. It does have the Furrion mount on the back. First step you'll want to do is remove some of the sealant to access the screws. As you can see over here, I did remove it on this side. You'll want to use a razor blade, some kind of X-Acto knife, maybe a screwdriver would do it. But you want to be able to remove that to access the two screws. That sealant removed and the screws taken out. You can just pull this off, which will expose the wiring. And the camera I have is a Haloview, and I did purchase the $10 bracket and the wiring adapter for that, so you don't have to do any cutting of wires. And here's a rubber gasket. We will be keeping this just since it does a good job of sealing out the water. But here, you'll actually see where this adapter is converted over to the 12 volt, and that goes into the clearance lights, all the ones on the top. And eventually I'll just be stuffing all this back in there. Okay, so I got the bracket hooked up, and we have the camera, the $10 adapter plate from Haloview, got that connected. I actually ended up using a 5/16 to tighten those down. And this will actually allow you, and if you put them this way, put the screwdriver part towards the front, you'll actually be able to slide. If you had to tighten them or loosen them, or take the bracket off, you could actually do this up against the wall of the trailer and take the camera off, and you'd still be able to remove it. First I had the screws, tighten them or loosen them from the backside, and you'd have to take a lot of stuff off to do that. So I wanted to show you by reversing this bracket right here from Haloview. So now you can actually have a much wider range of motion. You can go straight down or straight out. And you have the little sunshade here. And then one last thing, this will be mounted up on this is the Furrion, rubber backer. So the way they have that $10 Haloview mount, it'll actually line up with the factory hole, so you won't have to drill any different holes. And that's how it'll sit against the trailer. So I'm back up on the ladder, and I have the camera hooked up. I have the adapter cable right here. And I actually hollowed out some of this white foam. If I can get a good picture of that in there. But you can just kind of brush it with your hand. I used a shop vac, wet vac, to get all that foam out of there. This comes out in little chunks, but kind of hollowed out a little area. So now what you want to do is, before you actually mount it and finalize everything, is you actually want to test out the camera and the monitor itself. Now I'm going to be doing the pairing of the camera and the monitor. Here's a little trick. If you have a battery but not a tow vehicle hooked up, all you have to do is just connect a fuse, and you just look at the nub here on the 7-way connector. Put it in these two terminals, and it'll give you the parking lights. So those will be on. So since I've never paired this, I'm going to do this in real time. Go to the menu, and they look like white dots, but it does have different things here. Let's see, pairing, okay. And then what you have to do is go press the little button on the camera itself. So there's that little button right there. I'm going to press that in. And I came back in the trailer after pairing it, and we have a picture. So that is good. And it actually does have a microphone, which the quality, based on YouTube comments and videos, is not the greatest, but I don't actually plan on using it that much. So picture quality looks pretty good to me. There are a bunch of different settings. I'll mess with those later. And right now I'm only planning on using the one camera. So now that I have the pairing process done, I know it's going to connect. I'm going to actually start feeding this, since I actually hollowed this out, got rid of all that foam. I'm going to be feeding this up in here and putting all this wire inside so it's not outside dangling. And I did end up running the wire, that cable right through there. So I'll just see how much of this cable I can get inside there. Okay. As I said, you want these holes to line up. And you don't want to put all the wire back there, the cable inside, because you do want what's called a drip loop. And a drip loop, just like on some power lines outside your house, or if you go look at the cable internet or telephone lines coming into your house, you'll actually see this little loop of wire or cable hanging down. And that's so if any water gets on it, the water will go down and then drop off. Because otherwise, if it's like this, the water will actually follow and go right inside the hole. So with the drip loop, you'll have it go down and just drop off the bottom. So let me work on this part and I'll come right back. So now I'm actually going to be adding some silicone, which I know silicone is kind of a no-no on trailers, but I heard that, actually from a fellow camper, that the ProFlex, which I usually use, like on all the clearance lights and marker lights and stuff, the ProFlex and rubber do not really work together. They get kind of gooey. So I'm just going to use some silicone. That'll be good. I can always check up on it later and see what happens. But it's not like I'm going to be painting this area or anything like that. So I just want to put some in the holes, and then when the screw goes in, it'll just seal it. And I'm also going to add some right where the wire goes in. Okay, for time's sake, I just went ahead and put the 4 screws in, got it mounted up, and then I'm going to add a little bit of silicone to this. So then when you tighten it down, it'll make a nice waterproof barrier. And just go ahead and tighten them down. Then I will add a little seam of silicone over the top. And now what you don't want to do is silicone the bottom. Because if any water were to get in, you'd want it to be able to drip out the bottom. And if you sealed it, and if it got in the top, it would pool inside it, and they would have nowhere to go except for in the trailer. So now that we have the camera mounted, everything's wired up, I'm going to go try the monitor one more time. Make sure it's getting power. And there it is. Still got power to the camera. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any questions, let me know.